All right, welcome guys. So you should be looking at a page that on top says multiply and divide whole numbers, dividing by a single digit using partial quotients. So let's review. This part gets done on your whiteboard. Find the quotient using an area model and partial quotients. Pause the video and then you can unpause. Okay, so here is our area model. We broke this number up by place value, 8,680 and 2, and we divided it by 2. So 8,000 divided by 2 was 4,000, 600 divided by 2 is 300, 80 divided by 2 is 40, and 2 divided by 2 gives us 1. We see those same numbers and that same work being done over here with our partial quotient. We see we pulled out the 8, so 8 divided by 2 gives us 8,000. 8,000 divided by 2, 8,000 is 4,000. Then we have our 682 left over. I can pull out that 600, 300 groups of 2. And then I subtract and bring down, I have 82. I can bring out 40 groups of 2, which is 80. Subtract, we get 2, 1 group of 2, which is 2, with 0 remainder. And we're putting all these partial quotients together, getting 4,341 as our final quotient. All right, so today we'll find a quotient of a single-digit divisor and a multi-digit dividend by using partial quotients. Okay, so let's look at this problem here. We have 856 divided by 8. Find the quotient using an area model and partial quotients. In the past, we've done it by place value, 800, 50, and 6. But if I use that expanded form of the number, it wouldn't be as easy for me to divide. So instead, I want to think of 856 as a number that's easy to pull apart. So what pieces could I pull it apart into that are easy to divide by 8? Well, I know 800 is very easy to divide by 8. And after that, I'm left with 56. So 56 is a multiple of 8, so I know that I can just break it apart as 800 plus 56. That math is very easy for me to do. Yes, no, I didn't split it up by place value, but this math is going to be much easier for me to divide because 800 is a multiple of 8 and 56 is a multiple of 8, so that division will be much easier for me to do. Okay, so we can make an area model, splitting it up, 856. We're dividing it by 8. 800 divided by 8 gives us, and I'm going to write it over here, doing our partial quotients, 856 divided by 8. 800 divided by 8, well, let's see, 8 times what gives me 800? That number would be 8 times 1 would be my simple math fact, right? 8 times 1. 8 times 1 gives me 8. Whoops, I went too far with my numbers. 8 times 1 gives me 8. So 8 times 100 would give me 800. So now I know that that's 100. Okay, I'm going to pull out 100 groups of 8. Okay, well, let's see, 100 groups of 8, that's worth 800. Subtract, and I'm left with 56. Now I'm going to go with that 56. How many groups of 8 can I make from 56? Well, let's see. 8 times what gives me 56? 8 times 7 is 56. So we pulled out 7 groups of 8. 7 times 8 again, 56. We subtract and bring down. I can't make any more groups of 8 because I'm left with 0 at the end. If I add these partial quotients together, I end up with 107 as my quotient. 107. Go ahead and get that copied into your notebook. Pause the video if you need to. All right, so let's do this one together on your whiteboard. We're going to find the quotient using partial quotients. So here's our 735. 735 divided by 7. Well, I know if I broke this up as 730 and 5, it'd be very difficult for me to do that division. So instead, I'm going to pull out the numbers that I know 7 can multiply to b. That will make my division much easier. So I'm going to write out 735. How many groups of 7 do you think that we could pull out right away? Well, I see that I could take out 100 groups of 7. 100 groups of 7 are worth 700. Work this out on your whiteboard as I'm doing it. Okay, so then I subtract and I get 35. How many groups of 7 can I make from 35? Well, I happen to know 7 times 5 is 35, so 5 groups would be a great thing for me to pull out. Pull out 5 groups, I get 35, and I'm left with nothing at the end. Now, let's say instead of 100, I thought of 10. Oh, I can pull out 10. That's fine. I try to pull out 100 groups of something or 10 groups of something because those to me are really, really easy for me to do that math. Sometimes it's really easy for them to take out 200 groups or 20 groups, and that's fine. Whatever is easy, that's what partial quotients are for. You're taking out parts of it, and it doesn't have to be precise when you do it, okay? The only thing that does truly matter is that when I do it, I end up with 105 to make a total of 105. As long as your total is 105, it doesn't matter how many groups you pull out at a time. You could have taken out 4 groups and then said, oh, I can make another group of 7. So you would have 4 times 7, which would be that 28. And then you'd have 1 group of 7, which would be that 7, right? But together we know that that would make a total of 5 groups. All right, here's yours for your whiteboard. Go ahead and pause the video so you can work it out. 432 divided by 4. Solve using partial quotients. All right, here we are. We can pull out 100 groups, which would be 400. We can pull out 8 groups, which would be 32. And we're left with 0. Again, if you didn't pull out 100 or 8, that's fine as long as your grand total amount of groups is 108. 108. If we split this apart, thinking about like an area model type of thing, we would have 400 plus 32. Okay, find the quotient using partial quotients. 319 divided by 2. This time, let's focus on each place value. Let's start with the hundreds place. How many hundreds of groups can we make of 2 from 319? How many hundreds of groups? Let's see, 100 groups of 2 would be 200. 200 groups of 2 would be 400. So it looks like I take out the most amount of hundreds without going over. I could take out 100 groups. 100 groups. So 100 groups of 2 is worth 200. I subtract and bring all that down. How many tens of groups of 2 can we make from 119? Okay, so let's see. 10 groups of 2 would be 20. That's not very many. Let's do 20 groups of 2. Well, that would be 40. Let's do 50 groups of 2. That would be 100. So you're going to take out as many as you can. I'm choosing to do 50 groups of 2 because that sounds pretty easy to me. And I get 100. I subtract, bring all that down, get 19. How many groups of 2 can we make from 19? How many groups of 2? Let's see. I know 2 times 10 is 20, but 20 is too high. I don't have 20 to take away, so I can't do 10 groups. But I could do 9 groups. 9 groups of 2 is 18. So 18 is as close as I can get without going over the 19 number. I subtract, and I'm left with 1 remainder. Can I make any groups of 2 from 1? No, I can't. So I'm going to just add all of those partial quotients together, getting a total of 159. 159. But I have a remainder of 1 because I wasn't dividing this anymore. But you're in 5th grade. We don't use remainders a whole bunch. So instead of me writing remainder 1, I know that I'm continuing to divide that 1 by 2. And I can show division using fractions. So I can write that remainder 1 as 1/2 instead. 159 1/2 is our correct answer. Okay, if you wrote this, that's also correct, but I'd like both answers in your notes. Now, what if I didn't think of the 100 groups? What if I thought of, well, actually we were working with hundreds and tens and that kind of thing, but what if I just thought of 10? Could I take 10 groups and 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 10 groups? Yes. The point of this is the bigger the number of groups you take out right away or at a time, the less work you're going to have to write out and do, right? So we want to take the most amount of groups out that we can. Again, using 100, here I could have done 100 groups. I could have done 10 groups of 2, 10 groups of 2, 10 groups of 2, 5 times to equal that 50. Or I could have just pulled out that 50 groups of 2. It doesn't matter as long as you're meticulous in your work and eventually getting the same answer. Okay? All right. Find the quotient using partial quotients. On this one, we have 383 divided by 3. So how many groups of 3? Let's think of hundreds of groups because that's going to get us there the fastest. If I had 100 groups of 3, that's 300. If I had 200 groups of 3, that's 600. Oh, well, that's over our dividend here, so that's not going to work. So we can take 100 groups of 3, which is equal to 300. Subtract, bring down. Here we go, 83. How many groups of 3 can I make from 83? Well, I want to get something close to 80 probably, right? I know that 20 groups of 3 would be 60, which is kind of close. 30 groups of 3 would be 90, so that's too high. That's going over the number, which I can't do. So let's go ahead and use 20 groups of 3. It's the easiest one that came to my mind. I subtract, bring it down. How many groups of 3 can I make from 23? Let's see. I know that 3 times 7 is 21, right? I know 3 times 8 is 24. Ooh, but 24 is higher than this number, so I can't use 24. So I'm going to go ahead and stick with 21. Subtract, bring it down. Add all your partial quotients together. 100 plus 20 plus 7 gives me 127. And I have a remainder of 2. But I don't want to keep it a remainder of 2 because I'm in 5th grade, so I'm continuing to divide 2 by 3. 2 divided by 3 as a fraction is 2/3. Okay, so again, take out the biggest groups you could. Is it okay if I did 100 groups and then I did 10 groups and then 10 groups and then 7 groups? Yes. It's all trying to make it easy for you, however many groups you can think to pull out. Okay, as long as it doesn't go over the total amount that you're talking about. All right, on your whiteboard, completely on your own, find the quotient using partial quotients. 257 divided by 2. 257 divided by 2. Pause the video. Okay, here we are. After all the work, we took out 100 groups, 20 groups, and 8 groups, getting a total of 128 with a remainder of 1, or 128 1/2. Okay, find the quotient using partial quotients. So here I have, I have 636, and I'm dividing that by 6. I know I can take out 100 groups. I like using 100 because it's just an easy number for me. I can take out 100 groups of 6, which gives me 600. When I subtract, I get 36. I then can take out 6 groups of 6, which is 36. Ooh, no remainder. That worked out really nice for me. So I have 100 plus 6 giving me 106 as my quotient. 106. Okay, 106. Oops. So please find the partial quotient using partial quotients here. Find the quotient using partial quotients. 989 divided by 9. pause the video so you can work it out on your own. That could be 100 groups of 9. 100 groups of 9 is worth 900. Then I bring down, I have 81. I know, oops, I have 89, excuse me. I know 9 times 9, or 9 groups of 9 is equal to 81. We get 8 left over. And I can't take another group of 9 out because if I have 9 jelly beans, let's say, I can't, or 8 jelly beans, I can't give you 9 of them. So I'm done taking out groups. I add these together, I get 109. My remainder is 8, but I'm still dividing that remainder by 9. So 109 and 8/9 is my answer to number 2. Thanks for tuning in today, guys. If you have any questions, make sure you ask your teacher. Thanks.